Hello and welcome to the 45th episode of PEMpodcast, starring me, Victoria Laurie, and my fabulous sister, Sandy. We did not call each other prior to appearing. We both burst into laughter when we saw each other because we're both like the same color. Yes, it's like we're psychic or telepathically connected or something. Or we just have a lot of blue. Well, yeah, Sandy has a lot of blue in her wardrobe. I guess I just like being like my big sister.
It's in my aura. I need to honor my aura.
It is. Yes. Blue indicates analytical thinking. So when you carry a lot of blue, and my sister has a lot of blue in her aura, there's a lot of like light blue and some really lovely pink in it. You have a really beautiful aura. There's a little bit of like yellow fuzz kind of towards the top too. Of course there is. That's where your hair is. It's blonde. I think
really?
that's why you like to go a lighter shade of blonde, because you actually have like an area up here that's really kind of light, almost whitey gold up in there.
Wow. I'm so happy to hear all that. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so we've got a lot to kind of cover. Let's talk about the
Idaho.
The potato state Moscow murders, which is no laughing matter. And you've been keeping up on the case. I have not, because it just is so energetically disturbing to me that I can't. So anyway, go ahead, tell me tell our audience, our fans, what you found out and said to me right before we hit record.
So in keeping up with the case, I saw a newscast article kind of updating what was happening with the legal proceedings. And in essence, he's put his right to a speedy trial off. So the next time he'll appear before a judge will be in June, in 6 months, because his defense has asked for time to prepare their case. And in the process of watching that particular news article, they showed a picture of Brian Koberger with very red, like carrot-like hair. And I thought, oh my goodness, Victoria had suggested that the perpetrator had red hair. So just to confirm, I will. So here you can see for our viewing audience that he actually does have very red hair.
Yeah.
So
in the summer, it probably bleaches a little bit redder than in the winter. And luckily, this asshole is going to have darker red hair for the rest of his entire life until I don't think he's going to last long. I don't think he's going to live to see 40. I really don't. I don't think he's going to live to see 40. I don't know if Idaho has the death penalty, but he just really feels to me like he's going to have a fairly short life. Good. Fucker. Sorry. I really hate him. I really hate him. He's just
evil.
Yeah. Like you try and find the scintilla of goodness in people, even the worst. But man, that guy, the brutality. And the other interesting thing that I wanted to bring up to you, Sans, is that I looked at the knife that they suspect he used in the killings. And remember, I had said that when I was looking at the energy of these kids and how they were killed, that it in my mind's eye, I kept seeing a scene out of Scream where Ghostface is just like violently and it's just shudder worthy. And it turns out the knife that he used is very similar to the one that Ghostface used in the Scream movies.
Yeah.
The difference is that Ghostface used an 8-inch blade. He used a 6-inch blade, but the curvature, the shape, the handle, they're all very, very similar. And I just really think that this guy watched Scream, loved it, and was like, that's the way I'm going to do it. That's the way I'm going to carry out this act. I really think it influenced him. It's just, there's the energy of it is just there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those poor kids. God,
yes.
Those poor kids.
Absolutely. So,
Uh,
do you
oh,
have an uplifting anecdote for
I
today?
actually do.
Okay.
Can we bounce to something? I know, just less awful. Okay, so I was reading for a woman a couple of weeks ago, and it was very clear. Like this is the first time with me, it was very clear she was a little skeptical, which I always love. Right, I always love the skeptics. Bring them on. The male skeptics are my favorite because they're just like an open book. It's like, yeah, I double dog dare you. You know, what are you going to come up with? And then I'm like, pew, pew, pew. And they're like, it's great. Anyway, so I was reading for this woman and I connected to her grandmother, and I said something to the effect of uh, a lot of like smoke in the lungs. And I said, was she a smoker? And she said, no, but she died of lung cancer. And I'm like, it's so weird because I keep seeing all this smoke around her. And she said, my grandfather was a chain smoker. So the grandmother died of secondhand smoke. So then I saw in my mind's eye a bookshelf of books, just rows and rows of books. So that's a dual symbol for me. Sometimes it's a symbol of like a librarian or a bibliophile, but other times and more frequently, it's the symbol of a bookkeeper. So I took a guess and I said, "Who's the bookkeeper?" And she goes, "My grandmother." And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. And then the grandmother showed me the number 4. And I'm like, does she have 4 kids? And I could see this woman counting. She goes, yeah, 4 kids. And then I said, what's the big deal with Halloween? And she's like, I'm like, someone's birthday or something? Doing that. And then I was like, no, it's a pet. I said there was a pet about Halloween. And she's just looking at me. And I'm like, was there a pet named Spooks, midnight, witchy, anything? And she goes, a dog named Boo?
That's very cute.
A dog. And she said it just like that. A dog named Boo? Oh, it was adorable. It was absolutely adorable. So she's now a fan.
I would hope so.
Yeah, yeah. I love readings like that. I love readings like that because, when you come in with skepticism, it's almost like a fear of hope. You don't want to get your hopes up. You don't want to be duped. You would love to hear from them if it's actually them. And that's why when they connect and they offer me all this proof and it's just so specific and there's like absolutely no way I could get that information ahead of time. Nor would I want to spend that. I don't have time to research any of this shit. That's why you're doing all the the write-ups, because I don't have time to research anybody. But anyway, it just really kind of allows for the idea that it's really them on the other side that came through with love and attention and a connection. Death doesn't change a relationship. It's the same.
It is. So if I can quickly jump in there, right before Christmas, I went to visit a good friend and his wife, and their daughter happened to be there as well. And at the end of our get together, Deb, the wife, said to me, "Oh, I really want you to read this book. Jim, where is it?" And Jim said, "I think it's in my office." And Deb was like, "Oh my God, I can't find anything in your office." And Jim was like, "I know where everything is." So, no luck finding the book. I went home, and the next morning I got a text message from Jim with 3 photos taken in his office of a picture. And in the picture frame was a picture. It was a picture of him, his wife, and his best friend who passed away a couple of years ago. And I was so I'm like,
And
why
you
are you
knew
sending
his
me?
best friend. You knew him,
Yes,
his
very
best
well.
friend, very, very well. Yes.
And so I'm like, why are you showing me this photo? And Jim replied, because this photo sits in my bookshelf. And I came in this morning at 6:30 and the photo was sitting in front of my computer. And he's like, how did that happen? So Victoria was very gracious and gave me a New Year's Day reading for the year. And I asked her if there were any messages for Jim from his friend. And he stepped up and said, "Oh, I was the one that moved the photo. It took me all night. And I
Took him all night, like he moved it by centimeters. And he barely got it in position in time. Like he was racing against the clock. And I could just feel his frustration, like, almost panicked, like if I don't get it into position, he's going to think that it just fell on the floor, like that, like it just like got knocked over by a dog, cat, something. So that's why he had to get it like in front of the computer.
So he'd see it
Perfectly.
Yeah.
So that Jim would never suspect that it just fell there.
Right. So what cracks me up is Jim's best friend is constantly moving things in Jim's house, and Jim ignores most of it like it's no big deal. Now all of a sudden he's like, okay, I'm convinced. So
he's taking a photo before he goes to bed, photo after. What's out of place?
Exactly. So
maybe he'll start to, it might be S's, the best friend S's way of needling Jim to clean up his space so that he can notice things that are out of place more readily, and wouldn't blame it on just, well, my office is chaos. Of course must have left it there, something like that. So similarly to that story, Sans, so everybody's heard my bird out in the other room. She sits on a tree that's actually a coffee tree. They take a coffee tree and they peel off all the bark and they peel off all the leaves. It's dead. It's past its prime, and then they turn it into these beautiful perches for birds. And Doc, my bird, loves it. Anyway, so my mentor Kevin, who passed away right around the same time that S passed away, and we're both in still kind of in mourning over those two losses, has been showing up with feathers everywhere I go. And I actually had an urge to go pick up Thai food the other day. I'm like, why am I eating this? This is just so heavy and thick. And, I was like, I got to get the Thai food, so I go to pick up the Thai food. The traffic is blocked in one area, so I have to go around the block. And as I'm going around the block, in the town that I live, there's a little shop with Indian artworks and artifacts and all of that stuff. And in the window, of course, feathers, just all feathers everywhere. So I'm like, oh, hi, Kevin. Thanks for the Thai food. So I go home, I walk in the door, and I have a fairly large space that's my living room. So between the kitchen counter and the far wall of the living room, toward the counter, there's this big long feather from Doc. And like there just literally is no way that feather could have, it's this big, so it didn't lift on an air current. Nothing was open. I think even the heat was off because it was getting hot because of the sun. So it's just sitting there in front of the counter, and I'm like, hey, Gav, how's it going? Notice me. So yeah, if you ask for a sign and you're specific about it, they will do their level best to provide that for you. So what I always suggest is something that would remind you of, and Kevin had some American or some Native American ancestry in his heritage. So the whole feather thing is kind of a tongue-in-cheeky thing because, he used to kind of make fun of the mixed blood, of his mixed blood. So if you are missing someone and you really want to hear from them in a way that kind of defies the odds, I always recommend that you think of a symbol or something tangible. Like for my grandmother, I always ask for bicentennial quarters. I have dozens and dozens and dozens of bicentennial quarters. I'm always showing Sandy. I'm always sending her a photo. Look, got change. Here it is.
Let's just be clear. I have 4 bicentennial quarters, so we don't want to go who's the favorite there.
Of course I'm her favorite. Of course. Hello. But you're granddaddy's favorite. So, by far. Your granddaddy's by far, Sandy, by far.
We can discuss this later.
Yeah, I don't even need to tune him in, my sister. You are by far his favorite. So anyway, so Graham's, sends me bicentennial quarters, and they're getting rarer and rarer. And so when I still come across them every once in a while. And the poor thing, she's working so hard to try and get one to me, like, challenge accepted. So I
probably taking all my quarters and just sending them your way. That's what's happening. Let's be real.
Yeah, no, I have dozens, like dozens and dozens of bicentennial quarters. When my beloved little puppy Lily passed away, and I was just beyond heartbroken. I mean, Lil's was my baby. Um, and I got 4 bicentennial quarters in 2 days. Like boom, 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 boom. So that was Graham's saying, got the pup, which I thought was wonderful. So anyway, so that's the anecdote. That's more stories than you probably wanted to hear. You're like, get to the mystery, but we have to promote a book because that's what this podcast is partly about. Okay, so this week's book promotion is Ghouls Gone Wild. This is the 4th book in the MJA Holiday Ghost Hunter Mystery Series. This was one of the spookiest books I've ever written. This one wigged me out a little bit when I was writing it. So basically, the plot takes place in Edinburgh, Scotland. And there is a legend that in the village of Queen's Close, I believe it is. I just read it and wrote it 80 million years ago. But anyway, there was a legend that a witch, her lover, and 5 of her siblings were chased into the caverns that sit underneath Edinburgh, and they were summarily one by one murdered. And then every 100 years, 7 villagers, die mysterious deaths. So on the anniversary of those killings. So of course, Gillian and Jay travel to Edinburgh to kind of get to the bottom of this mystery. Who's killing who? And there's a scene that I wrote that I remember. So Gillian and MJ are part of a television crew. They're part of a cable TV show called Ghoul Getters. And so they set up cameras in these taverns. And I just was like, oh, there needs to be like something almost like The Ring, the movie The Ring that was so creepy where the girl comes out of she comes out of the TV, right? When the phone rings, she shows up on your screen, I think. I don't know. I haven't seen it. You and I are like, we don't watch that shit. And so I wanted kind of a scene sort of like that. So I had this dark shape kind of follow camera to camera to camera and stop and like pause and look at the camera and then carry on, so that people who were filming knew, the witch knew that she was being filmed. So it's a little on the spooky side. But yes, hijinks ensue, hilarity in somewhere in there, because it's Gilly is hilarious. So yeah, buy it everywhere books are sold. And if you'd like to make an appointment for me, so I can talk to you about your loved ones on the other side, tell you what color your aura is, tell you what's coming up for 2023. I've got tons of people who want to know the year ahead. January is a fantastic time to get a reading, especially if you have goals in mind. Who doesn't? It's January. We always have goals in mind for the rest of the year. So visit victorialaurie.com. Hopefully when you visit, the brand new website will be up, thanks to my sister and my marvelous future niece-in-law. I don't know. My nephew is dating the most beautiful young woman, and she's so smart and so talented. And Sandy and I have just decided that we are adopting her. So she built me this like fantastic website, victorialaurie.com. Click the button, make an appointment. Now over to Sandy for her book.
Okay, so this week's case is about a missing mother, Jennifer Dulos. She was a Connecticut mom of 5, and she vanished on May 24th, 2019. And while authorities continued to suspect and subsequently arrested her estranged husband, Fotis Dulos, the mystery of what happened to Jennifer died when Fotis committed suicide a few weeks following his arrest. To date, Jennifer Dulos remains a missing person, and the investigation into the circumstances surrounding her disappearance is ongoing. Jennifer was born on September 27, 1968, into a wealthy family. Her father, Hilliard Farber, a banker, and mother, Gloria Ordenberg Farber, a philanthropist, raised Jennifer and her older sister, Melissa, in a Tony area of New York City near Greenwich Village. Jennifer graduated from Brown University in 1990, where she met her future husband, Fotis Dulos, and later earned a master's degree in writing from New York University Tisch School of the Arts. Fotis Dulos was born in Turkey on August 6, 1967, grew up in Athens, Greece, and moved to the United States at age 19 to attend Brown University. Upon graduating, he went on to earn an MBA in finance from Columbia University. In June of 2000, Fotis married Brown graduate Hilary Vanessa Aldma. Their marriage lasted 4 years, with the couple divorcing on July 12, 2004. 6 weeks later, Fotis married Jennifer Farber on August 28, 2004, in a Manhattan Society wedding. Shortly thereafter, Fotis founded the Four Group, Inc., a Connecticut real estate development company specializing in luxury homes. The couple moved into a large home in Farmington, Connecticut, just outside of Hartford. And over the course of their marriage, they had 5 children together, including 2 sets of twins, all named after Greek Orthodox saints: 3 sons, Petros, Theodore, and Constantine, and 2 daughters, Christiane and Cleopatra Noel. While Fotis focused on his real estate development company, Jennifer, a stay-at-home mom, made her living writing for Patch.com and running her own mommy blog. But in a March 12, 2012 blog post, Jennifer alluded to trouble in her marriage, in which she wrote, quote, "I wish I were a strong person and that confrontation did not both scare and appall me," end quote. With the gradual breakdown of the marriage that included Fotis's extramarital affair with a high-powered Venezuelan businesswoman named Michelle Troconis, Jennifer, on June 19, 2017, secretly relocated along with her 5 children to a grand rental property in New Canaan, Connecticut, which was about 70 miles southwest of Farmington. Early that next morning, on June 20th, she filed for divorce in Stamford Superior Court. In her court documents, Jennifer noted, quote, "I am afraid of my husband. I know that filing for my divorce and filing this motion will enrage him. I know he will retaliate by trying to harm me in some way." Jennifer also alleged that on June 3, 2017, Fotis, quote, "became enraged, appeared out of control, and blamed me for scheduling activities for the children on a Saturday morning. I was scared and tried to leave the room. He followed me upstairs and into a bedroom where he shut the door and blocked it so that I was trapped as he verbally attacked me and physically intimidated me," end quote. She also stated that her husband exhibited intensifying, quote, "irrational, unsafe, bullying, threatening, and controlling behavior," end quote. And as a result, she was afraid for her safety as well as the physical safety and emotional well-being of their children. Jennifer's statement also noted that she believed Fotis was having an affair with his colleague, Michelle Troconis. Jennifer also alleged that Fotis had recently purchased a gun and had threatened to kidnap their children if she did not agree to his terms for divorce. In Fotis's amended reply to the motion, he claimed that he legally bought the gun in 2017 for home security and denied exhibiting, quote, "irrational, unsafe, bullying, threatening, and/or controlling behavior," end quote. Fotis also stated that he never threatened to kidnap the children and never, quote, "physically threatened, stalked, or assaulted his wife." Jennifer then made a request for an emergency custody order, but was denied, with the presiding judge favoring temporary joint custody until the divorce proceedings were concluded. As the case dragged on, both Jennifer and Fotis filed numerous actions claiming they were being disparaged by the other party. Fotis asserted that Jennifer had called him a psychopath and told the children that their father does not care about them. Fotis also claimed that his wife said to the children, quote, "I will make sure this divorce takes 2.5 years, and I can have the mafia break your dad's legs with a baseball bat," end quote. In a December 2017 email to Jennifer, Fotis wrote, quote, "Our children deserve a mother and a father, not one or the other. And if we cannot live together, we can at least get along for their sake and benefit," end quote. However, in early 2018, Jennifer once again brought forth her petition for an emergency custody order, and this time the judge ruled in her favor after finding that Fotis had defied numerous court orders. In March of 2018, both parents were ordered to share joint legal custody, and Jennifer was granted sole physical custody of the couple's 5 children. The judge also ordered that Fotis' visitation with his children was to be supervised and all phone calls monitored. Adding fuel to the fire, in February of 2018, after the death of Jennifer's father, Hilliard Farber, her mother, Gloria, sued Fotis for unpaid loans of $1.7 million. Fotis claimed the money he'd received from Hilliard was a gift. Gloria Farber contended otherwise. Sadly, Jennifer's fears about her soon-to-be ex-husband were well-founded. The last time Jennifer was seen alive was on the morning of May 24, 2019, when, after dropping her children off at the exclusive New Canaan Country School on Frogtown Road, a neighbor's security camera captured Jennifer returning to her Wells Lane residence at about 8:05 that morning. Almost 2.5 hours later, at 10:25 a.m., a surveillance camera captured Jennifer's 2017 black Chevrolet Suburban leaving her home. Police now suspect that the Chevy Suburban was driven by Victoria Dulos. After missing 2 scheduled doctor's appointments in New York City, one at 11 a.m. and a second at 1 p.m., 2 of Jennifer's friends, including her nanny Lauren Almeida, reported her missing around 7 p.m. after they were unable to reach her, and they noted to police that it was out of character for Jennifer to leave home without telling anyone. Lauren also told police that when she arrived at the New Canaan house at noon earlier that day, she was surprised to see Jennifer's Range Rover in the garage because she had understood from Jennifer that she had planned to drive that vehicle to her doctor's appointments in the city. When detectives conducted a thorough search of the Wells Lane residence, they found blood spatter on the floor, door, and the east wall in the garage, as well as on the exterior of Jennifer's Range Rover, including the hood, bumper, and rear fender. Blood was also found in the kitchen mudroom door, a cabinet, and the sink faucet. DNA tests later revealed most of the blood found at the scene was Jennifer's. However, blood on the kitchen faucet was a mixture belonging to both Jennifer and her husband, Fotis. In addition, police found evidence of attempts to clean up the crime scene and concluded that Jennifer had been the victim of a violent assault. Patrol officers dispatched to search for Jennifer quickly located her Chevy Suburban, which was found abandoned on Lapham Road near Waveney Park, about 3 miles from her home. That same evening, around 7:30 p.m., Fotis and his girlfriend Michelle Troconis were captured on video dumping garbage bags in 30 different residential and commercial bins along Albany Street in Hartford, Connecticut, which was about 90 minutes from New Canaan. Police discovered that the trash bags contained bloodstained clothing, including Jennifer's favorite Vineyard Vines t-shirt and her bra, as well as some cut-up bloodied zip ties and bloodstained cleaning items, including sponges and 2 mops. The blood collected from these items was determined to be Jennifer's. Police also recovered a trash bag containing a WeatherTech cargo liner, which was determined to be from Jennifer's Chevy Suburban SUV. Additionally, Fotis's DNA was found on the inside of a glove in one of the trash bags and on one of the trash bags. He was also surveyed on camera stuffing a FedEx box into a storm drain, which was later retrieved, and when inspected, detectives found 2 Connecticut license plates once registered to the Dulos family. Using black tape, the plate was altered from 516WDJ to 5T6WBU. As they built their case, police created a timeline of Fotis's activity on May 24th, the day that Jennifer disappeared. At 1:37 p.m., cell phone records indicated that Fotis left his 10,000 square foot Jefferson Crossing home in Farmington and drove to 80 Mountain Spring Road, a Farmington property owned by his company, the Ford Group. Fotis remained there for almost 2 hours before heading back to his home. At 5:25 p.m., Fotis returned to the Mountain Spring Road property for a second time that day and stayed for 10 minutes. Security footage showed Fotis arriving home to his Jefferson Crossing estate at 8:10 p.m. that evening. At 5:25 a.m. on May 25th, neighbors of the Ford Group property at 61 Sturbridge Hill Road in New Canaan awoke to loud sounds of banging metal. Even though the house was under construction, the early morning hour was highly unusual time for any type of building activity. Police would later inspect the dumpster located on the construction site. Police reviewed Jennifer's cell phone and credit card activity on the day she disappeared and found that her cell phone was at Waveney Park at 10:30 a.m. and was turned off at 11:09 a.m. Since that time and date, there has been no activity recorded on Jennifer's mobile account or credit cards. When police conducted searches in the wooded area near Jennifer's estate in New Canaan, as well as throughout Waveney Park, they were unable to turn up any sign of Jennifer. Police also searched for Jennifer in and around numerous properties in Farmington, including Fotis's home, the Mountain Spring Road estate, and the secluded property of his friend and former civil attorney, Kent Douglas Mawhinney. The 25-acre area was used as a private hunting club, wherein a member came across a large 6-by-4-foot hole in the ground and subsequently alerted police. Using a sniffer dog, authorities discovered the shallow grave on Mawhinney's property filled with 2 bags of lime and a blue tarp. While no body was found, it appeared these items had been removed from the makeshift grave. Adding to their suspicion, they discovered that Mawhinney was at the Ford Group offices on the morning that Jennifer disappeared. On June 1st, 2019, Fotis and his girlfriend Michelle were arrested and charged with tampering with evidence and hindering prosecution, to which they both pleaded not guilty. On September 19th, the couple was rearrested on the same charges and once again pled not guilty. On June 4th, 2019, a judge granted a request by a court-appointed attorney representing the Dulos children to suspend Fotis Dulos's visitation rights. Temporary custody was awarded to Jennifer's mother, Gloria Farber, and the 5 Dulos siblings, then aged between 8 and 13, moved to New York City to live with her. Fotis appeared in court on October 4, 2019, to seek a dismissal of the charges against him. The presiding judge agreed to review arguments by the defense and the prosecution. And later that month, Michelle Troconis, along with her 10-year-old daughter, moved out of Fotis's $5 million Farmington home. On January 7th, 2020, Connecticut State Police arrested Fotis and charged him with capital murder, and kidnapping in relation to his wife's disappearance. The warrant shed light on the evidence the police had collected from the surveillance footage of Fotis's early morning activities on May 24th, which actually started at 5:25 a.m. when he was seen driving a red Tacoma, which was loaned to him by a coworker, along the 70-mile stretch from Farmington to New Canaan. Upon arrival in New Canaan, Fotis parked the Tacoma about 3 miles from Jennifer's Wells Lane residence and then retrieved a bicycle from the back of the truck bed. At 7:51 a.m., he was captured on security camera, dressed in black pants and a black hoodie, riding the bike near Jennifer's house. Police recovered bicycle tire marks around Jennifer's home, and together with the blood evidence collected from the garage, police theorized that Fotis waited for his estranged wife to return home from dropping their children at school and bludgeoned her in the garage after she exited her vehicle. Michelle Troconis and Fotis's friend Kent Douglas Mawhinney were also arrested, Mawhinney actually at gunpoint, and charged with conspiracy to commit murder. The following day, January 8th, Fotis's bond was set at $6 million. He was released on January 9th in order to return to court on February 28, 2020. However, once the prosecutor discovered that the 4 group properties that Fotis had used as collateral for his $6 million bail were actually all in foreclosure, Fotis was ordered to appear in court for an emergency bond hearing. When he failed to appear on January 28, 2020, at his appointed time, state police were dispatched to his Farmington home, where he was found in an unresponsive state after rigging flexible tubing to purposely inhale carbon monoxide from his running SUV while it was parked in his garage. First responders initially transported Fotis to Yukon Medical Center in Farmington, but he was later airlifted to Jacobi Medical Center in the Bronx to undergo hyperbaric oxygen therapy. His 5 children paid him a final visit before he was taken off life support, marking the first time they had seen their father since he was accused of murdering their mother. Fotis was pronounced dead at Jacobi Medical Center on January 30th, 2020. He was 52 years old. He left a suicide note in his vehicle that read in part, quote, "I refuse to spend even an hour more in jail for something I had nothing to do with. I want it to be known that Michelle Troconis had nothing to do with Jennifer's disappearance, and neither did Kent Mawhinney." After hundreds of court filings over the course of the 2 years between the estranged couple, on February 4th, 2020, the divorce between Fotis and Jennifer Dulos was dissolved. On June 4th, 2020, Jennifer's mother, Gloria Farber, was awarded $2 million after finding that her former son-in-law, Fotis, had fabricated evidence in the lawsuits she had filed against him. By the end of June 2020, all of Fotis Dulos' properties were in foreclosure. On January 19, 2021, Connecticut State Police once again visited a 4-group property on Mountain Spring Road in Farmington to follow up on old leads. Several law enforcement authorities were seen digging up the backyard. Also on site was Bob Perry, a nationally renowned expert at finding unmarked grave sites. The next day, police returned to the Mountain Spring property with an excavator and a septic tank. In late January, during an interview with local media, Perry stated that although he would not say what, if anything, had been discovered during the Mountain Spring Road search, there were questions and suspicions about the newly built pool on the property. In the aftermath of this case, on March 3rd, 2020, a judge granted a nolle prosequi request by prosecutors to dismiss the murder charges against Fotis Dulos, ending the criminal case. This is not an acquittal, but an acknowledgement of the reality that the prosecution of Fotis Dulos cannot continue. Prosecutors then had 1 year to refile, or the charges would be dismissed. It also lifted the gag order imposed on the parties and freed witnesses from their obligations. In a statement issued in May of 2020, Michelle Troconis said it was a mistake to have trusted Fotis, but she has maintained that she does not know what happened to Jennifer or of her whereabouts. Out on a $2 million bond, she appeared in court on August 6, 2020 to face her charges, to which she once again pleaded not guilty. In October of 2022, at a status hearing, her attorney filed a motion to dismiss all charges against her, but the case has been continued. Kent Mawhinney was being held in lieu of a $2 million bond, but the bond was reduced to $246,000, and he was released on October 19, 2020, but then rearrested in October of 2022 for tampering with his electronic monitoring leg bracelet. The judge ordered Mawhinney to be held in custody on a $1.5 million bond. This case has also been continued. Prosecutors have stated that they are willing to make a deal in either case if it leads to Jennifer's remains. The Dulos estate has asked a judge to waive the 7-year requirement to declare Jennifer dead so that the family could access his IRA account. A probate judge ruled that such a declaration is not necessary to settle Fotis's estate. In May of 2021, a domestic violence bill, the so-called Jennifer's Law, received near unanimous support in the Connecticut State Senate. The proposed law is named after Jennifer Dulos and Jennifer Magnano, who was murdered in 2007 by her husband, Scott Magnano, in Terryville, Connecticut. He committed suicide immediately after murdering his wife, unfortunately in front of their 3 children. On June 28, 2021, Governor Ned Lamont signed the bill into law. Police remain convinced that Fotis Dulos had 2 specific windows of opportunity to dispose of his wife's body on May 24, 2019. Once during the 40 minutes he sat parked at New Canaan's Waveney Park in Jennifer's Chevy Suburban, and again during his 2-hour visit that afternoon to 80 Mountain Spring Road in Farmington. To date, the remains of Jennifer Dulos have yet to be located. My sources for the story include Wikipedia Jennifer Dulos, abcnews.go, A Connecticut Mystery 1 Year Later, a timeline of Jennifer Dulos, Fotis Dulos case by Emily Shapiro, May 21st, 2020, Box61.com, Kent Mawhinney back in custody after allegedly tampering with monitoring bracelet by Doug Stewart, October 3rd, 2022, Fox61.com, Michelle Troconis attorney files for dismissal of all charges and different prosecution by Jarlez Diaz, October 19, 2022. The Stanford Advocate timeline. 100 plus moments of Jennifer Dulos case. Staff reports January 7th, 2020, updated on January 30th, 2020. The Stanford Advocate. Potential buyer interested in Fotis Dulos mansion by Lisa Bacchus, October 25th, 2020. And Dateline NBC. The day Jennifer disappeared. Air date was July 20th, 2020, and updated on September 2nd, 2022 by Dennis Murphy reporting. So, Victoria, you have any ideas as to what happened?
So I'd never heard of this case. You watch all that stuff way more than I do. I'm busy thinking up murder. You're busy watching it. Oh, the joys of being a mystery writer. So I read the very first paragraph and boom, I was like, cement. She's in cement. She's buried in cement. And I'm like, wait, hold on. You don't even know if there's any construction-y kind of thing in here. And then I'm reading and I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Real estate developer. Okay. Yes, Fotis committed this crime. He and Kent planned it out pretty methodically. But stupidly, they were caught on like every camera. I mean, she lived in a Tony part of Connecticut. So of course there's security cameras everywhere, right? I believe that he drove the red Tacoma, parked it, got the bicycle out of the back, was dressed all in black, rode his bike to be there in time for her to come back from dropping the kids off. I feel like she pulled into the garage. He was just around the corner and he ducked in. I don't feel he bludgeoned her. I really felt he stabbed her. And I think that's why it took so long for him to clean up. I think that there was a lot of blood loss versus bludgeoning someone. I don't want to be too graphic, but bludgeoning someone, you can essentially kill them much quicker where there's not a lot of leaks going on, right? So I felt strongly that he stabbed her, and I felt that one of the bags of garbage that they got rid of probably had that murder weapon in it. What happened to her? Well, was she in the grave with the lie? Yeah, I think she was. And then they got nervous and they started moving the body. I think that Kent ultimately hid the body, not to be super graphic, but I believe that there was a cement mixer involved. I believe he put her remains in the cement mixer. I believe that the cement mixer mixed with her bones and basically pulverized her, and that became the base of the pool. Because when I try and hone in on her body, it doesn't feel like it's a solid thing. It feels like particles. So I don't think they're ever going to find a trace of her. I don't know how you dig out pieces of bone from cement. I guess you probably could, but good luck. You know, like I think that's her final resting place, is that pool. She feels like she was disposed of in cement. And you know what was really interesting was the very first images that I had coming were, okay, she's in cement, kind of like the mafia disposes of those bodies, right? And when I read that Kent was a civil attorney, I'm like, huh, I wonder if he has any connections, you know, to people in the know. I don't think Michelle knew what was going on. I really don't. It's not necessarily that she feels super innocent to me, because I think she had witnessed just too many angry rants from Fotis about his wife. And I think that when they were driving around dropping off the garbage bags, I'm convinced that he made up some story like, you know, I can't dump this stuff at the dump because I'll be charged all this money. It's toxic, blah, 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 blah. Right. So he's like, we'll just spread it around town to get rid of it so that I don't get fined. And she went along with that, you know, spending time with the boyfriend kind of thing. And then as all this unfolded, she's like, shit, she is effed. Kent is never going to give up where the body is. Never. Why does he have to? There's no body to point to him. He knows he disposed of the body so effectively that there's relatively zero chance that they're going to find any trace of her. So he can just spend time in jail for now, waiting for the trial. And then when there's, you know, one person on the jury who's like, I'm not sure, I don't know, out he goes, he's acquitted. So he knows how this works. He's a crafty sociopath. So he's just going to wait for his time, do what little time he has between now and his, is he still in jail, Stans? Yeah. So he's in jail.
He was rearrested.
Tampering with his
Bracelet.
monitor.
The other thing I didn't include in the story, but I did read in my research, which is very interesting and complements what you're saying, and that is that Kent also has an ex-wife, and she was very fearful that Kent and Fotis were going to murder her and dispose of her. So it might have been like, you know, strangers on a train kind of deal, where it was, I'll help you with yours, you help me with mine.
Yeah. Just too many cameras, caught too much on camera.
Yeah. I mean, even though Fotis was thinking he was being so clever, the reality is that he actually, all that trip from Farmington to New Canaan in the early morning hours was actually pulled from school bus videos.
I saw that. I thought that was so fascinating.
Yeah. That's how they got him on surveillance camera tracking his path, was from school bus monitors.
So the police did an amazing job, I think, in this case. And it's really a shame that he remained kind of one step ahead of them and then, you know, took the coward's way out, committed suicide. I don't think that was out of remorse or guilt. I think that was just selfish. I'm out of here. I'm checking out. You know, there's no way for me to escape the country, so I'm just going to escape this plane. Bye.
Well, he was also the interesting thing about the $6 million bond, and he put up all of his real estate, right? In reality, it was all in foreclosure. Yeah. He was in complete and total financial ruin. And I think he'd been playing a house of cards, trying to sell properties, and he just couldn't sell them fast enough or finish them fast enough. So in the Dateline episode that I watched, someone commented that the children equaled money. If he could gain custody of his kids, he'd have ties to Jennifer's family fortune.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. So it was within his best interest to get rid of her, which was probably why he was so furious at her for leaving him, because she sealed his financial ruin fate. Yeah. Wow. So heartbreaking. I mean, those kids are gorgeous. They're just, you know, five of them, and they have the trauma for the rest of their lives. Not only did their mother disappear, but they are kind of, I guess, forced to go say goodbye to their father, the man who murdered their mother.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's fucked up. That is fucked up.
I don't know if they were necessarily forced. It's just it's a one line in an article. So
Well, yeah, but like the deal is they were all so young, right? They're
yeah,
between 13 and 8, something like
at
that.
the time, yeah.
So an adult tells you, okay, well, we're gonna go say goodbye to your dad. You go.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
do.
so you don't. This is not the mind of an adult who can process the events that have been happening so quickly. They're traumatized, right? And I don't know. You grow up with knowing that you came in, I guess, reverence to the man who murdered your mother. That's got to haunt you, I think. Hopefully they got some therapy. I'm hoping they got some therapy.
I expect so. I mean, it seems to me that their grandmother has been very protective of them. So
Good,
yeah.
good. It's a shame that her husband passed away, because that would have been a nice formidable team. And then the other one, the law was named after the other Jennifer.
Yes.
What do you have what's the story on that one? You don't have anything
I
that
don't.
you
I
look
didn't
at?
look into it. No.
Oh God, he killed himself in front of his 3 kids.
Yeah. According to the article that I read, I mean, that's all I got was the description around Jennifer's law provided that information. So I didn't look into it further than that.
Wow. Wow. Just, I don't know. Oh, this is a depressing episode.
It is. I think for me, it's if you ever want to look visually at sort of the estates that they lived on and the amount of money that kind of was there, at the end of the day, if you're in an abusive relationship, it doesn't actually matter how much money you have, because
Right.
if somebody's intent on harming you, they'll find a way.
Well, we lived a very affluent life, and there was a lot of violence going on in our house, and no one said anything outside. Everybody noticed, but no one said anything because we were affluent. Our father was an automotive executive, and no one says anything, which is really unfortunate, because I don't know that anything could have been done back then. It was before anyone gave a damn, I think, about kids' welfare under the care of their parents. But in those types of situations, I think there's sort of this: if you're wealthy, it's overlooked because you're wealthy, and if you're poor, it's overlooked because there's so much need, right? Social workers only have so much time to deal with all of it. So system's broken.
Very broken. I mean, she did everything right. She
She
documented her fears. She documented their incidents, and he just kept piling it on. So it was a he said, she said kind of scenario on it.
Even when he was like, he sent her the email and he's like, our children need 2 parents, right? That was such a setup. Like, look, I'm reasonable. I'm a good man. I just care for the welfare of our children. Like, you fucker.
Oh, he was interviewed
psychopath.
by the media after he got out on the first time, after he'd been arrested.
Really?
Yeah, professing that he had nothing to do with his wife's disappearance, that he thought she was still alive, that she'd come back someday. Classic. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I don't know why women constantly are not believed. Like, we just aren't. It's so frustrating. And I recently went through something where I told the truth, and I'm being disbelieved up one side and down the other, and being, kind of the town pariah or whatever. Who cares? But it's so frustrating because, like, no one wants to hear the truth if it's coming from a woman's mouth. But a man can say fucking anything, and they lap it up. And I don't get that. I don't understand that. Why we're that way, It sucks. The other thing that I wanted to mention too was, when I was envisioning how he got into the garage, she pulled forward when she really should have backed in. So if you are someone who has a violent ex-spouse, or if you are worried for your safety, from someone that you are divorcing, please back into your garage. Please do not pull forward. You need to see who might be sneaking in. It's just, I back into every parking space, literally every parking space, not necessarily because I'm afraid, but because I have a dog that likes to hop down on a curb rather than down on the, an extra 6 inches. So that's why I back in. But it's a habit now. I can't break it. I'm backing everywhere. And I think it's smart for women to like get really good at that, especially when you're backing into the garage. You never know who's gonna, because your view in the rear your mirror is limited, right? So you're pulling forward, you're looking for the end of the garage, right? You'll see movement if they pass the rear window, but if they're down, you can't see that. So back into your garage, ladies, if you have one. And if you don't have
If you
one,
can
yeah.
maneuver it among all
Yes,
the
exactly.
bikes and
Exactly.
lawnmowers, snowblowers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, right. Well, you've done a good job backing into your garage all this
It's
time.
tricky. It's tricky.
Tiny
Yeah.
New England garage,
Yeah.
like horse carriage size.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, this was fun.
I am very sorry that she won't be found. I would have loved for her
know.
children to have had some closure around
I
that.
know.
But I appreciate your insights. I did not suspect that I was going along with what the police offered up, which was that they thought she died violently and it was indicated it was bludgeoning. No idea it was a stabbing. And
I really feel like
yeah.
the biggest clue on that it was a stabbing was the combined blood on the faucet. I think as he was stabbing her, he cut himself. Versus if you're bludgeoning someone like with a hammer or a crowbar,
right?
You won't necessarily cut yourself. So, and the amount of time that he spent cleaning up the scene tells you there was a lot of blood loss. So that for me was like, she wasn't bludgeoned, she was stabbed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
okay. All right.
Sad. She was a lovely woman.
Very, very beautiful. Yeah. Very, very sad all the way
a great
around.
Mother too. That's the other bummer. Yeah. So, sad world we live in. Anyway, Sans, thanks for this write-up. You did an exceptional job this time. This was really, really good, easy to follow. So well done on the wardrobe coordination as well. Appreciate that. And the following up with Brian Kohlberger, that red-haired devil.
I just want more and more evidence of you being right. So when I can find it, I'm gonna throw it up for everyone to see. So yeah. All right.
Yeah,
well,
it's I'll tell you, it's like there are times when I really know I'm right. And like there are times when I feel like, okay, I'm in the ballpark. I know I'm in the ballpark. Like I really feel that Jennifer was stabbed. You can present evidence to me contrary that she was bludgeoned, and I'm willing to be wrong. I'm willing to say, okay, I can feel the violence. It feels sharp and pointed rather than dull and flat. But it still shocks me and unnerves me a little bit when like I'm on like I was with this guy. That's spooky.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that adds to the idea of her being stabbed is that he used zip ties. So if you're going to bludgeon someone, you don't need zip ties.
Right.
To subdue them. So
yeah.
Anyway. All right.
Yeah.
Well, enough gory details. Love you too. Thank you for tuning
Welcome.
in.
I think I'll pass on dinner tonight. I'm good.
Yeah. No cauliflower for me.
Yeah. Well, if you were making me dinner, then I would not pass on dinner. I would soldier on. Because you're delicious. You're a delicious chef. Your deliciousness. But I hope you have a great night, sweetheart. And I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Sounds terrific. Thank you, everyone. Love you too.
Bye.